Hey, have you heard about my AI alter ego? That's right. Ask Alan Anything is now live, and we've trained it on my 13 books. We've trained it on over 200 podcasts. It has most of what's in here, not everything, but most of what's in here. And you can, when you're sitting around going, gee, I wonder what Alan would do in this situation, or I wonder what Alan would say in this situation. Well, now you can. Go to whatwouldallansay.com. Enter the coupon code podcast because you're going to get half off. It starts at only $10 a month. And now when you're thinking, I wonder what Alan say, now you can actually ask. Go to whatwouldallansay.com, enter the coupon code podcast, and start asking me anything. No excuses for a day. Oh, you need to listen to this one. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, author, sales trainer, website reviewer, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I am so happy to have my friend Sam Silverstein on to talk about his new book, No Excuses for a Day. Sam, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Alan. It's great to be here today.
You know, I've had a lot of our NSA friends, those of you that don't know, National Speakers Association. We're the ones that talk, not the ones that listen. I've had a lot of my friends on. I read their books and I go, you know what? I love this message. And I love this when I read your book, No Excuses for a Day, because this is not just about business. This is a life lesson, right?
Absolutely. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So listen, life and business are so intertwined, especially for the people listening in. A lot of small businesses, the business is your life. Where did the idea come from this?
This has been a long time coming. And many years ago, I wrote a book, No More Excuses. And while that wasn't my first book, that was what really set us off in the world of accountability and workplace culture and working with leaders literally around the world and helping them create high performance cultures. And after 14 books, I had a publisher from Brazil approach me, and he had a concept that he had used down there on something else, this for a day concept. He says, you should write the book, No Excuses for a Day. And I'm like, pause for a half a second. And I go, oh my gosh. I said, I've written that book in essence. And so that is where the idea came from. And what we realized was it wasn't just a book. It was a challenge. As a matter of fact, it's probably a challenge more so than a book, but it's the challenge that the book shares that's creating the interesting waves.
So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? I mean, no excuses for a day is, can you go through a whole day without making excuses? But that's not easy, is it?
It's not. Now, here's what we've discovered. We've done extensive research on this, and 66% of the people we polled said that they could do it. But the reality is they can't. And we even have situations where I had one high-performing professional send me an email, and she said, my assistant at 10:30 in the morning asked me a question today. And the question was, wasn't today the day you were doing the no excuses thing? And this lady said, yes. And then the assistant goes, well, you just gave me an excuse. And so here is somebody who's a high performer, and at 10:30 in the morning, that first excuse showed up. So the idea behind this is there's so much going on that we don't even realize. We're so absorbed in saying things and thinking things the way we always have. And many times we don't even realize when it's an excuse.
Yeah, I think our language is like that. We pick it up, sometimes from our parents and things. My sons had me banish the word evidently because my mother said it all the time. And it was like punctuation, evidently this, evidently that, evidently this. It really had no place in the sentence, but that was just her thing. And I didn't realize I said it. I just grew up hearing the word. And my son, like, you have to stop saying that. Bubby says that all the time. It's like, what? I don't even realize that you're doing it. I guess as speakers, it's kind of like filler words. we had to teach ourselves not to have filler words, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And we've had other situations where I've had people come back to me and say, "Well, I knew I gave excuses to myself, but I didn't think I was making them to my wife." And they realized through this challenge that they were. And the challenge works really, really well when you bring someone in. It's like if you and I were interfacing with each other and we said, okay, this is what we're going to do today, because we're there to spot each other. We're there to see what the other one's doing. And this isn't meant as a pointing a finger. When we teach this within an organization, whether it's a 1, 2, 3 person organization or a large corporation, it's not about calling people out in a forceful or negative way. It's about having fun with something so we can learn what we're doing and we can be better.
Yeah, I think I love the idea. This is not a gotcha. It's an awareness. And again, I go back to the filler words thing. I had a good friend and she was just a wonderful speaker, but the filler words were just all over the place. And I knew her well enough. And I said, hey, you might want to just listen to a recording. I love the way you speak. You do have a bunch of filler words. And I think if you could take some of them out, it would probably even come across better. And she goes, I do? I said, yeah, just, and again, I knew her well enough. The next day she calls me up and she says, oh my freaking God, I cannot believe she listened to a recording. And that's the first step, right? Isn't it just being aware that's what we're doing? So it's not gotcha. It's like, oh, did you even realize that you did that?
Exactly. And, in business, when you're in business, and it doesn't even matter if you're wedding and event professional or you're a plumber. I mean, it just doesn't matter. The bottom line is that the goal is to give exceptional service to our clients, is to, they're entrusting in us and they're investing in us. They're giving us their treasure. They're giving us money, and we need to deliver for them. And they don't want to hear excuses. They want to hear what you might call a reason even. They want what it was that they invested in. And when it comes to weddings, I'll tell you this. I've been around enough brides. Now, I've only had one bride myself, but I've got daughters. They don't want to. They want it to run right. And if something doesn't run right, in any business, they want to see you take ownership. They want to see you address it, fix it, and move forward. Nobody wants to hear a lame excuse.
Yeah, I've told this story on the podcast. My son got married a couple of years ago, and the rental company that was bringing the dance floor and some tables and a popcorn machine and glassware calls him the morning of that day of the wedding and tells him the truck broke down. They may not be able to come. And my son's like, why aren't you calling a truck rental company? Why are you calling the customer to tell me that you can't come on my wedding day, right? Again, you think if you're on the receiving end of something like that, you'd be like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and the question really is, are you looking for a way in or are you looking for a way out? And in that situation, that supplier was looking for a way out. And nobody wants to do business with someone like that. Now, yeah. If they had just gone and gotten another truck, first of all, they don't even need to tell the client. But they could tell the client, the truck broke down, we rented another truck, we are here for you. And wow, think about the goodwill. Think about the messaging that the client is going to share with the world. And it could be positive, or if you don't show up, that could put your business out.
Right. And they could have put a spin on it and said, listen, truck broke down. We rented another one. Don't worry. When you see us pull up and it says Ryder instead of our name on it, that's us. Right.
Exactly. Don't want you to think that Joe,
fly-by-nights showing up.
Exactly. Like we're there to take things out. We're bringing things in.
Right. Now, you also talked in the book about how you with your family, you with your wife, right? You did this.
I've done this with my wife, with my family. Look, no one is immune. This is what I've spent over 30 years researching accountability, working with leaders, helping them build high performance workplace culture. And let me tell you something, excuses come out of my mouth. And I'm not proud of it when they happen, but my wife knows to call me on it. Now, I also know not to call my wife on it, but that's a separate issue altogether. But yeah, if I'm not I feel like when you're partners in life, you're there to help each other be your very best. And I want to know when I'm slipping up because I don't want to fall into that trap. And a lot of times those are excuses we give ourselves. You know, those excuses we give ourselves will really hold us back. And when you have someone that cares about you that spots that and can point it out, that's very freeing. And, Renee has been at the epicenter of anything good that I've ever achieved. And part of it is because she doesn't let me come up with an excuse for why it can't happen.
Yeah. So the excuses we tell ourselves, let's talk about that a little bit more. What's an example of an excuse we tell ourselves?
It's not the right time. I'm not good enough. I don't have the training. All my competitors have been doing this so much longer than me. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm too short. I'm too tall. It's unlimited. The excuses that we can come up with, and usually we have one big excuse that holds us back, and I do call that the big excuse. And for me, and this might not sound like an excuse, but my big excuse was that I had to be perfect on stage when I was presenting, if I was keynoting an event. And that was keeping me from busting loose because I was always worried about what other people thought about me. And rather than just being me and being myself and being transparent and being honest to who I am and not trying to, and unconsciously, I think I was positioning myself like I had it all figured out, even when I didn't. And that, we all make mistakes and we all need to work on things. And so overcoming that was very liberating for me. It was very freeing for me.
Yeah, I've spoken about this. I've written about this. When I did martial arts, and I started at 39, I didn't start at 9. And I had asked the master one time if we're trying to do the perfect kick or the perfect punch or the perfect form. And he emphatically said no, because you can't be better than perfect. Like if you're perfect, there's no improving on that. So the goal is to be the best you've ever been every time, not the best you can ever be, which leaves you room for getting better each time. And what you described, I've talked to so many people about this, aspiring speakers and stuff. It is really hard to just be Sam on stage, to just be Alan on stage, and take away the fourth wall and the persona and all that. It's just, they want you. Like they just met you in the hallway and they want you on stage. And this is the same thing to people listening. If you're emailing with them, you have to be your genuine self. So when they actually speak to you, when they actually meet you, it's the same person. It's the same thing there.
Exactly.
I think one of the biggest biggest excuses we all tell ourselves is, I don't have the time.
Absolutely. And that's a prioritization. That's deciding what's important. And, it's like also we hear people say, well, I can't afford that. Well, that's not usually the case. Usually what the case is I've decided I'm spending my money on this, therefore I don't have enough for that. It's not that you can't afford that. It's you've chosen to spend your money over here. And that's okay. But don't make an excuse to me, and don't make the excuse to yourself. You made a choice. Look, just live with your choice.
Right. I had somebody use the word expensive to me today. And I said, that doesn't apply. It doesn't apply because expensive means I didn't get the value that I was hoping to get from whatever that investment is. It could have been $1 or $1,000 or $100,000. It doesn't matter. I didn't get the value back. I said, but what I hear too many people in my industry doing is they think, well, they didn't hire me because I'm too expensive, right? But then they're driving a fancy car or living in a nice neighborhood. No, that was priorities. Or they didn't see the value in hiring you. And a lot of times it's because you don't believe it yourself. Like, how many speakers don't charge enough because they think, oh, they wouldn't spend that money. It's not your money.
How much does a car cost, Alan?
Exactly.
I mean, you can spend $25,000. You can spend $125,000. You can spend $325,000. And so, yes, someone has to have the money, but even someone with that money is not going to spend it unless they feel that the value is there for them. But when the value is there and they want that value, they'll move heaven and earth to come up with the money to. It's like a kid that wants that bicycle. Oh my gosh. They'll do whatever it takes. They'll nag the heck out of you as a mom or a dad if that's what it takes, but they're going to get that bike.
Yeah, I used to say go get a paper route, but now there's no paper. So you
Right. What's that?
What's the digital version of that, right? But this also comes down to weddings is priorities, right? It's priorities. The money goes. Again, you've had one yourself, but you got a couple of daughters, right? You spent the money on the things that were important. And again, all of these excuses that we tell ourselves, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I can't do that, I don't know enough about that, I've never done that. I hate when somebody says, I can't do something that they've never tried.
How do you know you can't do it? That's an excuse. It's a limiting excuse that we give ourselves. And, that's why we created the challenge. That's why we created the site. And it'll be in the notes, but the noexcusesforaday.com site is all about that, helping step you through the challenge, because it's difficult to do it alone. When you have someone helping you do it, you can achieve it. And when you eliminate those excuses, ultimately what happens is then you open doors for opportunities. Now, what we've discovered is many business leaders and business owners and entrepreneurs, they don't even realize what the opportunities are that are beyond those doors. I was reading an article today about a guy that started off manufacturing pickles and selling them in a wagon in Boston. And now he's nationwide. He's in Costco. Their products are all over the place. He never even dreamed that was possible when he started, but he didn't let excuses hold him back. He pursued opportunities.
I think this is where sometimes blissful ignorance when we start a business is very helpful, because we don't know that we weren't supposed to do something. We don't know that, and somebody else will be like, oh, no, people don't do that. Oh, well, okay, maybe you don't, but that doesn't mean I can't. And just think about every shelf in every store is filled with products where somebody said, I can do something. I want to try to do something, right? Mm-hmm. What's the excuse? I think it was Xi Zhang's book, where he did the 100 days, where he did uncomfortable things every day. I forget exactly what the name of it was, but he had the idea for the wheelie shoes, where there's the shoe that's got the wheel in it that the kids do. And he had this idea, never did anything with it. Like drew up the plans, the whole thing. And then he goes to a store and there they are, because somebody else did it. They just acted upon that. And the question is, why not? And the why not actually in his case came from his father. His father, he's Asian, and his father is like, no, you don't do that. You become, an accountant, or you become a lawyer, or whatever it is. You don't become an entrepreneur who makes shoes with wheels in them.
So here's what I've discovered, Alan, that action follows belief. Yeah. And when you're an operator of a business, especially, in the wedding industry where you're dealing with a lot of independent and small entrepreneurs, small suppliers, as you know, that you work with, the question becomes, what is it that you believe about yourself? What is it that you believe about your business? What is it that you believe about the potential? What is it you believe about what you should be charging? You talk about people that are undercharging. If you can't be profitable charging what you're charging, then you have two choices. You either get out of business or you charge more. And when we pull these beliefs back, then what happens is opportunities for growth abound. They're out there. Why are some people enormously successful and others are struggling? Well, it's not the systems that are holding them back, it's the beliefs. And those beliefs, when they're the manifestation of an excuse or excuses in the plural, then it's like walking around with anchors on your feet. The people, like the guy that invented the shoes with the little wheelies on there, didn't make an excuse for why it couldn't happen. He just went forward with the belief that it could happen.
Right. right? The super soaker guy, right? I forget, he was an engineer or whatever he was. He created that. I told the story in one of my presentations. My son, when he was 6, well, 5, I'm sorry, he's 5, training wheels on the bike. Again, you know that you have 6 grandkids, right? And it's like, he's doing really well. They're not even touching the ground. I said, Adam, let me take those off. No, 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 Daddy, I can't ride a two-wheeler. I said, why not? He goes, well, I'm only 5. But when I'm 6, I'll be able to ride a two-wheeler, which was like 2 months away. I said, but you're going to be 6 soon. I said, let me take him off. No, 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 no. So I take him off anyway, and he does the whole, yeah, no, I can't, right? And he can't do it. I put him back on. Sam, on his 6th birthday, I took him off, and he rode like he's been riding for years because he had a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the reason I tell the story is he's so much smarter than the rest of us, because when the excuse was taken away, he did it. Whereas adults are like, oh, well, but now I can't do it because of that. Now I can't do it because of that. Now I don't have the money. Now I don't have the time. Now I don't have the degree. Now I don't have this, right? We just find more excuses instead of finding a way to get it done, right?
Exactly. And here's the interesting thing. We're naturally attracted to, or we move away from people. Mm-hmm. And those people that we tend to move away from are the ones that are putting the excuses out there, the ones that have the limitations. Yeah. We are naturally attracted to the people who are transparent, who are honest, who take ownership, who see the possibility. I want to be around someone who sees opportunity and possibility. Nobody likes hanging out with negative people. Negative people are just manifestation of excuse after excuse after excuse. And so when we take the time to make the awareness to discover where the excuses are popping up in our words, because they are for all of us, then what happens is we move into that genre of individual that people want to be around. They want to recommend you as a supplier to their friends. I enjoyed working with you in my wedding. I want my best friend to work with you as well. And so it really steamrolls for the individual.
So tell us about the challenge. How does the challenge work?
So the challenge is really simply this. No excuses for a day. Go a day without making excuses. At the end of the day, ask how it felt. And if you liked it, do it again tomorrow. Now, that's the simple sense. On the website, we step you through it. But the purpose is this, is the keys are, you're probably not going to make it the first day from sunup to sunset, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Just recognize when you make an excuse, take ownership, and restart. And just going through that first day like that, you're going to start to see things that you didn't realize were there. And then if you go, wow, you know what? I think I could do better. Tomorrow, do the challenge again and see how far you can get. Because as your awareness grows, the excuses will start to disappear.
So what's the difference with an excuse? I guess what's the other word? So let's say you left enough, you're driving to meet a client and you left plenty of time, okay? But there's a bad accident on the highway is closed off, and you're stuck in traffic, and you're going to be late, whatever. What's the difference between I couldn't make it because this thing outside of my control happened versus I'm putting that excuse up there, I didn't have the time, which is, like you said, is just priority or whatever. How do you separate those two?
Well, there's two things. One, you said there was plenty of time. Define plenty of time. You need to be there in 20 minutes. When did you leave? 21 minutes before you were supposed to be there?
But let's assume you've made this trip before, and it's a 20-minute trip, and you left 50, right? But still, you're late.
Things happen. So, but here's what I discover. Some people they think they've left themselves plenty of time because it shows up a lot. And they really haven't left themselves plenty of time. They've left themselves just enough time. Now, beyond that, well, it's about ownership, because we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. So it's about ownership. But if you find yourself being, to use this example, late, more often. And if things are happening more often, then I would suggest you're not giving yourself enough time. Look, I go to get my hair cut. I know. You don't really think I need to get a haircut very often, but sometimes I do. And the guy shows up and he's late. And he goes, I'm sorry I'm late. I got a speeding ticket. Okay. Why'd you get a speeding ticket? Well, I was driving fast. Why were you driving fast? I left home late. Okay. So,
right.
So, but to me, and this is what a lot of business people don't understand. So the guy that cuts my hair, if I have a 9 o'clock appointment, if he's there before I get there, he's there at 1 minute till 9 and he thinks he's on time. But he's already late because when I show up, you know what happens? He's turning the heat up or the air conditioning up. He's moving his cart over to where his chair is. He's rinsing off his combs. He's taking the towels out of the dryer and putting them where they, I have to wait for that. And so in business, we make excuses for things and we don't even realize that we're making excuses and we don't realize how it's impacting other people. And so an appropriate amount of time, sometimes we need to reflect a light on that and make sure that it is appropriate.
It's also communication. When I was on the road selling, if I was going to be even 5 minutes late, I called. And most people were like, oh, no, hey, it's okay, because they're at a wedding venue, they're a venue, or they're a DJ. Like, no, it's no big deal. I said, no, it is. I told you I was going to be there at 9. I'm going to be there at 9:05, right? Because I did, again, whatever happened, whether it was my fault or not, which I always would try to be there early. If I told you 9, I prepare to be there recorded at 9, right? To allow for those things. But stuff happens, right? There was a big black tie gala the other night, and I knew I'm going to leave at 4 o'clock. Except Amazon told me my new bow tie was showing up the day before, and it didn't. And it showed up at 3 o'clock, which then I had to shower and shave and get dressed in my tuxedo and remember how to tie a real bow tie, which took me a half an hour. So much so that I actually put a fan on me, Sam, because I'm sweating so much. I didn't want to sweat. So I left 10 after 4 instead of 4. And I immediately texted the people I'm meeting at 6, because I was going into Manhattan, and said, I'm probably going to be a few minutes late, right? I might not be, but I'm probably going to be a few minutes late. Because you know how with the GPSs, it tells you the time and then you get closer and the traffic changed. And then all of a sudden those things.
Exactly.
But I immediately said, I'm telling you 2 hours ahead, I might be a little bit late, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was only 5 minutes or something like that. But still, that's the same thing. To me, that's the accountability. I'm accountable for what I told you. And if I can't make that, then I'm going to let you, I'm not going to make the excuse, right? If they didn't ask why, I told them why later. I said, I'll tell you why, because I can't remember how to tie a bow tie. That's why I'm late. It's not a good excuse, but it is what happened. And I'm going to own that. But
and I'm totally,
now.
Yeah. And I'm totally dependent on my wife to tie my real bow tie.
Oh my gosh. No, my wife said, you're on your own, buddy. It was me in a YouTube video for a half an hour. And the last time I did it was almost 3 years ago. And I remembered there was something I kept doing wrong. It was like a pinch. It was the back piece I was putting in backwards every time. And then finally I realized, I was like, oh, look at that. There it is. And my friends who put on bow ties all the time are like, then they're done. And that's it. So no excuses for a date. I love the idea of accountability, right? You have to have somebody else who, again, not the gotcha. I think of it like the swear jar, right? I always think of it like the swear jar. You're not aware that you're swearing, and then somebody catches you, and all of a sudden, you got to throw $1 or a dime or whatever it is these days in the jar. You're still not going to be perfect afterwards, right? This is not an idea of you're going to leave the excuses out. What would you consider success for someone who decides to take the challenge?
Well, the opposite of accountability is avoidance. We avoid situations. We avoid ownership in most cases. The symptom of avoidance are excuses.
Okay.
And so the idea is success is an increased awareness that we're making those excuses, that then we have an increased awareness and that we're taking ownership actual ownership of the situation. We're making the decisions, we're doing what needs to be done, and we're showing up for the people we need to show up for. And it could be our clients, it could be our families, it could be our community. And so I would say success is an increased awareness and literally a daily commitment to continue to eliminate excuses, because they will show up from time to time. And when they do, if we knock them down, then we're taking another step forward. Because like you said, none of us are perfect, but we can get a little better today. And if we get a little better today, then we're setting ourselves up to get a little better tomorrow.
All right. So last thing, admitting that we've screwed up, admitting that we're making these mistakes. Some people are probably thinking, well, doesn't that make me look weaker? And I don't agree with that. What do you think?
I think it makes you look stronger as long as it's not a constant situation. Now, we've all experienced that person. Oh, I'm so sorry I messed up. Oh, I'm so sorry I messed up. No, you can't keep making the same mistakes. That's why I said, if you're continuously late, there's more at play here. Right, so, right. But people want honesty. They want transparency. That's the person they fall in love with. And so it's not a sign of weakness. Remember, I thought I had to be perfect. That was holding me back. That was a weakness.
Right.
And when I started just feeling free to be able to say, you know what, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I made a mistake, but I'm owning this and I'm making it right. And eliminating repetitive mistakes, right, then I believe you're setting yourself up for long-term success.
Yeah, I believe it too. And as a leader, admitting that you made a mistake to your people means it's okay that we make mistakes. Again, as long as it's not the same mistake again and again and again, it's okay. Or as I told my son at his wedding, that, you wake up every day and you have a choice to be happy or right. I choose to be happy. And, I'm okay saying I screwed up. Matter of fact, I do this when I call tech support, because I'm pretty good with tech. And if I have to call tech support, I've done some things already. And I call up and I say, okay, first thing I want to tell you is I messed this up. I did this, this, and this. I pushed this button. I did that or whatever. And there's like a sigh of relief on the other side that I didn't say the cat walked across the keyboard or something like that. They're like, oh, thank you. I said, yeah, I need your help. I did all the things. I unplugged. I did whatever, but I screwed this up. I don't know how to fix it. And they're like, thank you.
Well, and that's key. And you mentioned this. When you lead people, if your actions and your words tell them that you think you're perfect, then they think they have to be perfect. They can't make mistakes. So what happens? They slow down. Not only do they slow down, then they don't own situations, and they continuously come to you to make the decision because they don't want to be wrong. And when you show that you're not perfect, then they realize you don't expect them to be perfect. You expect them to be excellent. You expect a certain high quality, but it frees them up. And when they are relaxed, the people you lead, they can perform at a higher level. And when they perform at a higher level, the organization wins.
Yeah.
It's really a big deal.
Yeah. I was just listening to a book, and they were telling a story about Facebook where this guy was trying to find this bug that happened. So he decided to stress the system for that thing and make it happen. And he did, except he took all of Facebook down for 30 minutes when he did it, right? But instead of firing him, the people that are in charge of fixing the bugs and stuff like that said, you know what? We should be doing more of this, not taking the system down for 30 minutes. We should be doing more of making these things happen so that we can stop them from happening for our customers. And they named this process after that guy. They said that we're calling it Brandonizing or whatever it was, because he was the one, not in a good way, but he taught us, right? This is what it is. And I love that we're celebrating the failure. We're celebrating that instead of making an excuse for it. Nope. We screwed up, but that was a pretty good idea. Not that way, but that was a pretty good idea. So, all right, Sam. So noexcusesforaday.com is
absolutely.
Okay, that's where they can find the links for the book, for the challenge, all that stuff.
Right. There's a quiz on there that they can take, and the quiz will show them where they'll actually get a report, and it'll show where they're strong, where their weaknesses are. It's insightful, and it's available in English, Spanish, Portuguese.
Oh, también disponible en español. Oh, okay, bien.
Yes, it's all out there. So, it's noexcusesforaday.com. That'll get them into the world. And then the book obviously is available on Amazon. And the reviews have been coming in really strong. So we're really excited.
Well, my review is up there on Amazon. I was one of the early ones on there.
I know you, and I
books as
appreciate
well.
that.
What is it, 14 books you said you have?
Well, 15 in total now.
15 in total. Okay. So first you read this one, and then you got to catch up on the other ones over there. Sam, thank you so much for joining me. This was so much fun.
My pleasure, Alan.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe to this channel and post a review on your chosen platform, Apple Podcasts or whichever one. If you have any questions about anything in this episode or any of my episodes, email me directly at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com or visit my website, alanberg.com, alanberg.com. If you have any suggestions for future topics or guests that you'd like to see, please again, email me or visit my website. Thanks for listening.